claiming 2 lives since it was confirmed a week ago. A 5-year-old boy is a third confirmed case as the 3-year-old boy and is receiving treatment in hospital. Ebola cases have been reported in different parts of the country and beyond borders, with all the neighboring countries now on high alert.
The question is, how much do you know about prevention, treatment and care for patients and suspected cases of Ebola? And with us this morning is Dr. Alan Muruta from the Ministry of Health to give us all that important information that we need regarding Ebola. Good morning, Dr. Muruta. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Now every single Ugandan is worried about Ebola. It's back. It's the talk of town. Many have been worried just about Western Uganda, but there are few cases that have been rumored here in Kampala, and of course the worry has now shot up with Ugandans. About 2 or 3 days ago, we had a session where we took people through how to wash their hands and to make sure that their hands are clean, make sure to stay away from contact. But I'd gotten yesterday but one at the offices. I realized that people sometimes get too cautious when incidents like this happen, that someone could have a very small incident, and you understand it's better to be cautious than not at all. But some get too cautious. So today we want to dissect this in the best way possible, and let's start with how it spread. Should we start from how it spread? Should we start from a person who has it? Because one has to have it,
yes,
to spread it.
Yes.
So should we look at the symptoms of one that has it, and then we go to the spreading? I think let's start with the symptoms.
With the symptoms, and then we'll see how it is spread.
Yes.
And then we go out to how it is prevented.
Yes, because some of us have gotten information that if the people who sweat too much could be a symptom, and Doctor, I can see you are one of those people that sweats faster. Yes, so I would be worried already. So let's start with the symptoms.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers. The signs and symptoms of Ebola include, first of all, they are not very specific. I have to warn. They include fever, high-grade fever. They include muscle aches. They include sore throat. You may have vomiting. And in later stages, you start discharging blood from all openings of the body. So you realize those are not specific. So the real confirmation of Ebola is the laboratory confirmation. They take off blood and confirm in the lab.
That's the gist of it. Yes. Before we get into the other questions that we're going to ask, let's first take a look at this story. Then when we get back, the first question that came to my mind is, can any doctor or any clinical pharmacy, can they tell? We're going to get into that. Let's first take a look at this story.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, is on his third visit to Uganda since the Ebola outbreak in the DRC in August 2018. Dr. Tedros highlighted the importance of preparedness in the fight against the Ebola epidemic.
And that helps you to prevent. If it happens like the 3 crossed, you can detect it early and respond.
According to the director, unlike Uganda, the political turmoil in areas like Butembo and Katwa in DRC has been a major stumbling block in tackling Ebola.
The concern in DRC, as you know, where the outbreak has happened, is a war zone, because the Ebola outbreak overlapped with election last December. And that complicated the outbreak, because with the overlap with the election came politicization of Ebola.
Dr. Tedros also met President Museveni. The Health Ministry spokesperson, Emmanuel Ainebiona, spoke to NTV about the meeting.
Briefed the president about the situation in DRC where he had come from and also pledged his continuous support.
The WHO boss also went to the Uganda Virus Research Institute in Entebbe.
From what we have seen the last 1 week, the speed with which Uganda had reacted to the cases that it detected in its territory is very commending.
According to the Ministry of Health, Uganda has no more new cases of Ebola following the 3 confirmed last week. Only 1 person remains in hospital. The ministry has now embarked on ring vaccination of all those who made contact with Ebola victims.
So far, the vaccinating teams have vaccinated about 48 contacts.
In Kenya, the Chief Public Relations Officer, Timothy Kemei, yesterday reported a suspected case of Ebola. It was a 36-year-old woman who was registered at Kericho Country Referral Hospital. However, according to the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Sisiri Kariuki, the results of the tests carried out by the Kenya Medical Research Institute laboratories in Nairobi have been confirmed to be negative for Ebola virus and other viral hemorrhagic fevers.
I wish to reassure all Kenyans and our visitors that we do not have any cases of Ebola.
Kenya and Tanzania remain on high alert and compulsory border screening is still going on.
Well, that's a quick look at a wrap-up of the situation, the outbreak that is happening in the region. So now let's get more into the details of the symptoms that we have been taking a good look at. Like you said, it's they're not very, very evident. They're not the usual symptoms that one would see very quickly. We have people, my friend Rita here, you never know. Unfortunately, she could just have a slight nosebleed and we could all go into a panic here in studio. No one will be able to be in that space. But you say that it can only be confirmed with a test.
With a lab test.
With a lab test. Yes. Now the biggest question there is, can any lab do a test and confirm this?
Not any lab. Not any lab. In Uganda, we have only 1 lab. Only one? Yes, that is able to do the test, and that's Uganda Virus Research Institute. But we have portable equipment that we have deployed, for example, in Kasese, to be able to do tests in the field. But also those tests need to be confirmed at Uganda Virus Research Institute. But this can give you, can give the clinicians a very quick working
for starters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, getting into the spread, a number of people now, as of yesterday, I was greeting a friend and they decided to give me a fist bump. They quickly said, Ebola is here, immediately. And one of the spread is through body fluids, body contact. Now, getting into that, what should someone do? Because a number of people are either sticking to now not being a part of public gatherings, choosing not to greet people, just simply say hello and walk past without any body contact. So what should someone choose to do and how should they contain this?
First of all, the outbreak, though it's in the country, it's in DRC, rather in Kasese district. And we are currently listing those who have come in contact with the cases. And I need to tell the country that now we don't have a case of Ebola. They have since passed on, and they were some were repatriated to DRC while they were still alive. And so what we are doing now is to follow up those who came in close contact with those cases. And so to be able to cut the transmission, we have to do what we call social distancing for those who are known contacts. That means that they don't have to go in congregate areas, markets. Those who go to school don't go to school. Those who go to work don't go to work. Only those who are contacts. The rest of us are free to go to different places, even in congregate settings. But we have to exercise caution when we are greeting. You avoid contact with body fluids like sweat. For this matter, handshakes and hugs should really be discouraged. But of course, I need to expound on the other sources of transmission. If you come in contact with just linen means the clothes and beddings of a former case or of a case, that means you become a contact. So those should be avoided. The medical sundries and equipment that have been used on a case. And of course, if there's a case touching urine, stool, vomiters of a case are very, very highly infectious. So in the area of operation, we discourage those contacts from going to public places. They stay at home, and they are monitored on a daily basis. They are given a thermometer, they take their own temperature regularly and report. So we are in contact on a daily basis with and should any of them develop symptoms, we quickly go for them and isolate them.
What about that person who doesn't want to go because they know if at all I go to a hospital, I might have the symptoms. One thing quickly, I'm isolated. Yes. We can just taking a look at what has been happening in DRC. A number of people there choosing not to actually go to the hospital because they have this myth that if we take my family member there, I won't be able to see them. Yes. They will die there. Okay. So that Ugandan, that one who says, if I go to the hospital, chances are I will be isolated and I might die. And for that reason, I'd rather stay home.
In this response, we've got what we call technical pillars. And one of the most important pillars is psychosocial support. So these contacts have got access to psychosocial support. They are cancelled. And those who develop symptoms are usually cancelled in a way that they are told about the benefits to themselves and to their family members, so that the sooner they are taken to the hospital, the better. As you might know, the earlier they are treated, the better, because the chances of recovery are very high. And also the ability to spread the disease to family members is minimized. So there are quite a lot of benefits of early reporting to the isolation facility. And the isolation facility is to make sure that this case does not spread the disease beyond themselves. And so there are a lot of benefits, but we have that group of people who are very specialized in counseling, and so they give this counseling to the extent that nobody resists going to isolation facility.
Doctor, I'm not in any way coming out at Ministry of Health condemning them in any way or format, and it's going to sound like I'm watching a lot of movies, but in Western countries, when you have incidents like this, some of the first steps they take is sort of a quarantine of like the Western region, where people can't leave that region to come, and that's just being precautious to make sure that that disease doesn't spread any further. When this happened, they also tried to limit how much information goes out to the public, not to worry people too much, which of course many would say, well, that could be dangerous as well. It's very good for the people to know what is happening and where it is, so that they can know how to deal with it. In this incident, when there was an Ebola outbreak, the news hit, it was all over social media. There wasn't any effort by the ministry to try and you know, and cocoon it in a way. Then there was, you know, the World Health Organization giving you cars for this attack, and one would want and say, hey, so Ministry of Health were never ready for incidents like this, because we would assume that as Ministry of Health you have a budget, you are ready for incidents like this in case they happen.
Yes.
So, yeah, with that in mind, do you think that the Ministry of Health has, of course, we have really, you have been very quick in response to this, and the way you've handled it, even when we had the World Health Organization head here come in, he said you have really come in really quick. But do you think that we are dealing with situations like that the best way possible?
Yes. Thank you very much. I wish to tell the country and yourselves that since the outbreak in August last year, we've been in preparedness mode, and we've been preparing all this time. I'll just mention a few things that we've done since that time. We did make sure that we make a rapid assessment of the country, the whole country, and we mapped out the most at-risk districts. And even within the districts, we try to map out on the readiness in terms of the different areas, the technical areas like coordination, surveillance, case management. I hope you understand those terms. I think they sound straightforward.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Risk communication. So a whole range of technical areas, we assessed them, and we use the results of that assessment to now go into preparedness mode. Where we found capacity is lacking, we built capacity, we trained health workers on how to manage, how to prevent infection from spreading, how to handle safely somebody who is a suspect, how to transport, how to inform the public, how to communicate effectively. We pre-positioned the logistics for Ebola, including protective materials and sundries. So we did quite a lot, including procuring some equipment. We procured temperature scanners. If you've been to the airport, you notice that there is a scanner with a screen. So all arrivals are screened for temperature, and should they find that you have a temperature, they do secondary screening to find out whether you have a link with that disease. So we've done quite a lot. So by the time the outbreak occurred a few days ago, quickly everybody was aware. We put up, you see, the treatment units. We have a number of them in especially the border districts. I also wish to let you know that we did classify the country into 3. The most at-risk region, those are the areas close to the western border, neighboring DRC, about 30 districts. And then those districts that are hosting refugees from DRC, even if they are inside, including Chenjojo, Isinjiro, so those are among the high risk. Kampala also is among the high risk because
it's a trading center.
It's a trading center and a lot of travel, including the proximity to the airport. And so we put all these systems in place to make sure that should there be an outbreak, then we quickly get in. Yeah. And when there was, we quickly got in. You can imagine we were informed by our counterparts in DRC of a team of family members who are trying to cross, and yet they are contacts of a former case. And were informed in the night of 10th, and by the next day at 10 we were able to round up all those who had crossed, and we isolated them before they could get in touch
Spread
with
in the
so
family.
many people.
Okay.
So I want to let you know that so far we of course those ones passed on and others were repatriated, but we have listed their contacts. They are numbering about 92, and of those, around 89 were followed up to yesterday. We know their status, we know how they are doing, and none of them has developed symptoms.
Okay, now doctors, you mentioned all of this, the vaccination.
Yes.
The vaccines that are in place, some people are receiving them. Now, of the 92 contacts that you have mentioned, there is a lady called Muhindo Mary who said she had been in contact with the family and she wanted everyone to get the vaccine. Meaning that there are people who just really want to get the vaccine so that they don't have to be in this situation of maybe they might have it, they might be at risk, and the vaccination that has been given to a number of people so far. Who qualifies for the vaccine, first of all, according to the Ministry of Health, and also what criteria that is for you to get here?
Thank you very much. Ideally, when there's an outbreak, it would be good to vaccinate everybody.
Yeah.
But you realize this is the 5th outbreak we're having in Uganda. All the previous outbreaks, there was no vaccine. That means the vaccine is a new intervention. And therefore, we cannot be, the manufacturer cannot be able to produce sufficient vaccine for everybody in the country. So with the limited quantities of vaccine, we prioritize the frontline workers. Those include the health workers, the support staff in facilities, because somebody who is sick is likely to report in a hospital. That's the whole reason. But there are other frontline health workers, like people who work at the airport, people in immigration, and many others, those who are likely to get in contact. So those ones, we, in our preparedness, we've been able to vaccinate them. A total of over 4,700 frontline workers, right from the north, right from Arua to Kisoro. That is the pre-outbreak vaccination, excuse me. But when there's an outbreak, we do what we call ring vaccination. Around each case, we list the contacts and vaccinate them. That is the strategy which we are using, and the strategy that is currently prescribed by the World Health Organization.
So, let's get away from the vaccination now. One would want to know if, by any chance, I was in the newsroom today and I saw someone that is showing signs. I don't want to alert everyone around to cause panic, but I need this person to be not eliminated from the public for now until we are sure he's safe. What are the procedures? Where do I start?
Well, if you see somebody who is having signs, as I told you, the signs are not very specific.
Yes. Sudden onset of fever,
yes.
A headache. That one they might not tell us, so they could just tell us, I have a headache. And that in our business of work here, a headache is not a disease. It's something that we
transient.
Yes. Intense body weakness, muscle pain, these are all signs of fatigue and in our business. I can see these are very, very common. A sore throat, vomiting, diarrhea, skin rash, bleeding from body openings. So, okay, just in case I've seen any of these, and I'm just concerned. I'm like, okay, let them first deal with this person, and then we can know what happened after.
Okay. Of course, if you see such a person with those symptoms, it is better you refer them to the health facilities, so that the health workers are able to evaluate them and see. But you are advised not to get close. You are advised not to get in touch with their body fluids, and you can interrogate them if they have been recently in either Kasese or in any other area of outbreak. And if that is true, or if they have come in contact with somebody else with similar symptoms, just a few those simple questions would lead you to know whether this person is high risk or not, because these symptoms are not very specific. The best you can do is to send them to health facilities so that the professionals can do their work.
Okay. When you say professionals, health facilities, and I think I asked this earlier on, is the Ministry of Health, have you educated these facilities that you're talking about? Because, of course, the first thing I'll do is I'll run to a pharmacy to get some Panadol, whatever it is. I'll go to the next clinic. Are all these clinics aware? Are they educated on how to handle cases, on how to evaluate patients who will just come in with a sudden fever, with just a headache, I have muscle pains? Those are things that we, on an everyday basis, the pharmacy on the way to my home, pharmacy, the clinic on her way to home, those are things that they deal with on an everyday basis. Yes. Are they aware that every single time someone comes in with, I have a fever, can I please have this medicine? Have you equipped them to make sure that when every single time someone reports with those symptoms that you say are not very clear, they at least can be sure and just do a small test for starters?
Yeah, we, especially in the high-risk districts, over the last 10 months, we've been able to give public information, to do community engagement, including the community leaders and other opinion leaders, including health workers and what we call the village health team members in high-risk districts. But for those outside high-risk districts, in the other category, the rest of the country, we've made attempts to put some of this public information in the media, on TV stations, on radio stations, supported by partners. These messages have been running. So we expect all health workers to pick this up. And I'm happy that most of the health workers in this country are aware. They are very suspicious of this disease. And the evidence is the number of people being referred to the facilities is that suspicion. Ever since the outbreak in DRC, we've gotten over 1,000 alerts. Alerts are people who are referred with that kind of suspicion that they might have Ebola.
Okay.
All over the country. But of course the majority are from the high-risk districts on the western border.
Okay. Well, that has been Dr. Alan Muruta, and he is from the Ebola Task Force, Ministry of Health, trying to enlighten you on what you should do. And one thing he has mentioned is avoid greetings that have body contact in them. And I will just show you how he greeted me this morning when we met for the first time. And this is what you do. So if you're going to say hello to someone, good morning, simply use your elbow, and that is all.
So it means I can't fist bump you, doctor, because that would still be...
Yeah. Just do this. Wow.
So now at least you can take something to your workmates, wherever you're watching this from. Maybe you might be in a hospital, even as a health worker. Yes, just simply fist bump. Don't fist bump.
No
elbow. No fist bump. Elbow is what you do. Well, that has been our Tech Note segment for this morning. Dr. Alan Muruta, once again from the Ebola Task Force, Ministry of Health. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us this morning.
Giant Uganda Company Limited is the #1 manufacturer of aluminum profiles in Uganda for sliding doors and windows, office partitioning and curtain wall section. Located in Jinja